What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about XRP today. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, my friends. It is the 28th day of September, and here we are sitting at about $2.81. We've got 8 hours and 37 minutes left in this day, left in this week. It is the end of the week here. Not really much has happened, right? You move down a little bit in all honesty, this week right now, the way that it's closing, it's kind of positive. It kind of looks positive, right? Wick to the downside, a little bit of a body to the upside. That's not bad. However, I still believe we have lower to go. I think this is just another week consolidating over the last 3 weeks in what is an overall move to the downside. I've told you guys this before that I believe in bottoms. I believe in double bottoms, even triple bottoms, but I do not believe in quadruple bottoms. If we're looking at our quadruple hour time frame here, you can see that we've had one low here, double bottom here, kind of a double within the double bottom, triple here, quadruple here. Now, if you want to say that this all counts as one low, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I would agree with that. Why? Because this low here, come on now, this low here and the reaction afterwards was enough, in my opinion, to convince the average person that this could have been a low, that we had a triple bottom overall. We were thinking that with the last one. That was a 10% move or more. And we came back down. I don't think this is all one low, right? It's all in the same area, yes, but I wouldn't count that as one low. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 bottoms. Quadruple bottoms, you guys, are what we call inevitable breakdowns. That's what they are. They don't exist. The odds of us going up are very low. Not impossible, just very low. We look at the reactions we're having here, right? Very positive reaction. Somewhat of a positive reaction, but then, as time went on, you went higher. Here, we had a very positive reaction. And here, this is the most lackluster reaction we've had out of any of them. You get the lackluster reaction right before the breakdown. It's very common. It's what happens. It's to be expected, right? At least I think. Looking at this here, I gotta plug that in so we don't lose the camera. Let me see here. Hold on. There we go. Bam. Looking at this here, I would assume that some people are analyzing this as some kind of descending triangle. And in which case, if it is a descending triangle, and it's not, but let's just say that it is, but it's not. If it is a descending triangle, the way you'd measure it is that you take the high to the low of the pattern. Not the low of the wicks, but the low of the pattern, right? Because if it was the lowest wick, then that would mean that the descending triangle was here, but it's not here, right? I think more so it's probably like here. So taking it from the low of the pattern, putting it to that breakout point, that would imply that XRP goes all the way down to $2.05. If you've heard people say this or imply this, you're seeing anybody chart this, understand they're doing the right thing by measuring the high to the low of the pattern, okay? They're doing the right thing, the measure move, everything about this is proper, but they're going to be wrong because XRP is not going to move down this low. That's not what's going to happen. This setup is, first off, it's not a perfect looking descending triangle. If it was, we wouldn't have this outbreak here, right? You wouldn't have that outbreak there. It looks like you had a breakout and now you're back testing for support. You're probably going to come down and see a slightly lower low. What I really think is happening is that this is not a breakout of a descending triangle. I don't think that's what's happening. I think we're just back testing this trend line. And with that, what we're going to get, in my opinion, is a slightly lower low. We're going to get a fake out. It's going to be a fake out. And what we're going to see to the downside is that we're going to go just below and we're going to find support at this line here, which if we do that, if we were to go to this line, we're going to find support right there at this prior area of resistance right here at 265, maybe a little bit lower. We can clearly wick below and wick above this line. It's not a precise science, right? But all I'm trying to say is anybody giving these measured moves, talking about the price going down here, I haven't seen anybody talk about it on YouTube. I haven't seen anybody talk about it on X.com. I'm just going with what looks like an obvious pattern here. I would assume there's some people talking about it, so I'm not targeting anybody. If one of my YouTube friends is watching this and they've made this measure move, I'm not trying to single you out. I'm just saying anybody saying this, they're getting a bit overzealous. They're not considering what that means, right? XRP going from 280 down to $2.07. That would imply that the average crypto is about to dump. And I just, not that they're not about to dump, but if XRP drops 26%, guys, the rest of the market's going to drop 30% or more. That's not happening, right? That's very likely not the case, in my opinion. What's more likely, and again, it doesn't line up. it doesn't line up completely well with it being an ascending triangle. It more lines up with this idea that we're back testing this trend line, and with that, we might see some kind of slightly lower low. That's all I'm trying to say. I think that's what we're going to get to, not this massive breakout. We're going to break out from this area here, right? Instead of holding this line, we're going to break out. Everyone's going to expect this measure move to happen, and as soon as we break out, that's when we find support and we move up higher. We're actually very close, in my opinion. I think that we are very, very close to seeing support come in for XRP. We just have a little bit lower to go. And whether we find support right here at this wicking high, come on now, or we find support at the closing high, right there. Maybe we find support a little bit lower. The lowest that I'd give this thing is probably right here, which is at about like 244, 243. But somewhere in this area, likely in this area, is where we're going to go. We take this low to high here, this kind of initial pivot, low to high right here, and you can see the 1272 lines up with this area perfectly. If we take this low to high here, oh, that was not the low to high. That is the high. Oh, that's not the high either. Come on now. High there. Low there. Oh, come on. Come on. There we go. Low to high there. 1272 lines up just with that as well. So both of these 1272s, the weekly or the daily closing high right there, it just all makes sense that probably something around 260, yet just below 260 is where we're going to go. That's my expectation at least. We're at 280 now, a little bit lower. And with that, how much of a drop is that? Like an 8% drop. I expect the average altcoin to drop 10% or more. So XRP dropping a little bit less than that, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me, especially because the average altcoin's down this week like 6%. XRP is actually down 5%. So it's down a little bit less than the average altcoin, right? See, in the beginning of this video, I thought I was on the weekly time frame. This is the daily time frame. Okay. So if anybody was wondering, they're like 3 weeks, because from the beginning of this video, I thought we were on the weekly time frame because we are at the end of the week here, but I was on the daily time frame. The weekly time frame. Okay, so the end of this week is actually looking like this, which is not actually as bullish of a note. It's not the most bearish candle, but it's definitely not a bullish weekly close, right? At any rate, I do believe we have lower to go. I think we're just consolidating in this area, and we are waiting to go lower. That's essentially what I'm getting at. Daily time frame, the RSI looks bearish here. The stochastics look bearish, and the MACD here as well. Wrestling above the zero, couldn't live, and now it's back below. Makes me think bearish. We have this set up to have some bullish divergence go on, right? You've got these oscillators down here. We could absolutely find that these oscillators come down. You get a higher low, something like that. And if we get a higher low in these oscillators with a lower low in the price, that would give us some bullish divergence as well, and we would likely recover and see some phenomenal growth from there. Looking at the weekly time frame, finding support around the 50 could be what we do, yeah. And if we do that, we're very close to the 50 here. We'd probably see just a slightly lower low, nothing too crazy, right? Find support at the 50 and then move up. The weekly RSI is bullish overall. The stochastics are bullish overall, and the MACD is bullish as well. But if we look at this right now, we have crossed to the downside. We've got a second week of red right now. XRP, typically, whenever it crosses red, you are red for a little bit, so it's very possible that going into next week, we see a little bit of red as well. I would expect that sometime in October, we start to come to life, and we should be at new relative highs, new all-time highs by the end of October. All in all, my friends, regardless of the downside, regardless of when we find support, which I think will be sometime either on the 1st of October or after the 1st of October, regardless of all of that, we are looking for higher targets. I'm very much expecting that we're going to stop somewhere around $13 or more by the end of this year. 1071, 1331, and even just above there, we could see as high as like $16 based off of these fibs and based off of other fibs. There are very significant levels that line up with that zone there. If we're looking at this from a high to a low, 2618 is right there at 11. Your money zone, 2886, 3113, right there at the area that I personally think that we're going to go to. But anything and everything in between this area, to me, and the in-depth analysis that we've done over the months, over the year with XRP, really this whole year has really indicated and suggested that we do see something that's above $13, but we'll see. And I would expect at this point, I mean, it could happen by the end of October, but just don't be surprised if it takes until the end of the year to get there. One way or another, though, it is going to happen. And I would expect that when we do break out of this range here, when we are moving higher, we're going to teleport like that to $6.50 and above. We're going to teleport very, very fast to those prices. And we might not stop. And with that, that's why I'm saying we really could be at $10 or more by the end of October. We really could be. But time will tell. I don't really have anything else that I want to say. I think I've said it all. So if you guys like the video, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Make sure you're following Ripple on x.com if you want to keep up with any important updates that are going on, right? They keep posting things. We're building the internet of value. That's what they're doing. It's important to be following. If you're interested in a coin, it's important to be following, because as much as you love me and as much as I love you, and I want to tell you all the things that I know and that I'm reading about this stuff, sometimes you'll read things that I don't read, that I'm not aware of. Sometimes you'll read this before I read it and relay that information to you. It's important to be aware of the coins you're investing in so that you can make the appropriate decisions. If something bad happens, like Garlinghouse comes out and says Ripple's a scam, they bribed me to be the CEO, it's actually a Ponzi scheme, and everybody needs to get out now. You want to be the first person to read that. You're only going to read that. Well, you might not read that here. He'll probably get kicked out. It's not a good point, but I'm just trying to say negative news, positive news, regardless of what happens. And we know Ripple's not a scam. We know XRP's not a scam, right? It's in the United States Crypto Strategic Reserve. We know it's not a scam. Anybody who's saying it's a scam is just sour that their coin is not in the strategic reserve. I'm sour that my coins aren't in there, but I look at XRP and I say bravo. Cardano, Stellar Lumens, or not Stellar, sorry, Solana. I say bravo. Stellar might get there one day. But all I'm trying to say, and I'm saying it poorly, is follow the people and the corporations that are behind the projects that you are investing in. That way you're better informed as well, right? I want you guys to all be better informed. I want you to be aware of what's going on so you can make the best decisions for yourself. None of this is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy in my living room talking to you about cryptocurrency, having fun. So hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all. Take care. I'll see you on the next one, all right? Bye-bye.